Good evening once again, and welcome to Doctor and Call. This evening, a very special program we have lined up for you. We're looking at Down syndrome. In fact, today it's World Down Syndrome Wednesday, and we have some very special guests with us. Well, Dr. Nixon is no longer a guest. In fact, tonight she'll be acting as my co-host because I am not in a position to do much talking tonight, so she has to help me out. But we have with us this evening Dr. Beverly Nelson. She's a consultant pediatrician. She's no stranger to Doctor and Call. She's been here before. And also with us this evening, Miss Tonia Hyacinth. She's a speech therapist. And tonight we're talking about Down syndrome. You'll get to learn a little bit about that and, of course, what is involved. So, Dr. Nixon, it is a pleasure as always to have you. Let us welcome our guest this evening. So, Dr. Nixon, I'll allow you to do the honors tonight.
Thank you, Godfrey. Good evening, Grenada. It's really a pleasure being here. And I think tonight is very important to us because what we want to talk about tonight is something that we tend not to talk about a lot, or we tended not to mention in the past. Tonight we're going to talk about Down syndrome, and we have Dr. Beverly Nelson, who's a pediatrician and the mother of one of the most prolific young ladies with Down syndrome that I know, who I tease every time I see her. And a lot of us in Grenada would have seen Sabrina out there being an undertaker's assistant, probably the only undertaker's assistant in the world with Down syndrome. And we're very proud. But we also know Sabrina as a singer, a dancer, a ballerina, a swimmer, you name it. She's in everything. So the limitations that we have put on persons who have Down syndrome are now moot. And we have Tonia, who is no stranger to Down syndrome. She's actually Sabrina's cousin, right, Tonia? But Tonia does a very specific role because of the challenges that the Down syndrome people have, or Down syndrome citizens have. Tonia is a speech therapist, something which is very important to be shared, to be given as a gift. The attention to their speech so that they can be one of us, just do the things. Tonight's program, it means a lot to me because I want to, in this program, remember two people whom I've known, probably
That's
three,
correct.
to whom I've been very close, who have passed, three. One of my patients who died probably like 17 years ago at the age of 60. It was phenomenal for me because I'd never seen somebody at that age living with Down syndrome. And my aunt who had Down syndrome and died 3 years ago at the age of 61. And my little cousin, Vernell, who died in this January at the age of 42. All fabulous people, prolific in their own way, and bringing their absolutely wonderful gift of love. I think that's, if you have to talk about Down syndrome, you have to think love every day because they kind of have God give them all the love that he had to share. So the other thing I want us to recognize is whenever we have a challenge with any disease, any ailment, it's important that we create awareness. Because if we look at cancer, for example, or diabetes, the very fact that persons with diabetes or their families have taken it on, have taken it on taken on a campaign, a message to the world, meant that people became more tolerant. As a child growing up, a lot of us heard about the big C, whatever that was. I never know what it was. I just said big C, and maybe something I'm not supposed to know anyway. Why should I be interested? Diabetes has become a big buzzword, and like you say, it's become sexy. The truth is, we need to, as a community, be aware of the differences so it can all be the same.
Right.
Often we tend to think just about differences without thinking that we can all be the same.
Okay, so
are we okay, Godfrey?
Yes. So let's say good night to Dr. Nelson. Dr. Nelson, good evening and welcome again to Doctor and Call.
Oh, thank you for having me. I am always willing to come on board with you.
Thank you very much. So you can expect a couple calls very, very soon again. Tonia, good evening and welcome to Doctor and Call. Tonia, I think you're muted. Are you?
Yeah, Tonia, you're muted. I don't think she's hearing because she's on the road.
Right.
I'm on. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are
Oh,
hearing you
yes.
now. So
Good
we
night, Grenada.
yes, and it's a pleasure to have you. So I want to
Same
start. Yeah, I want to start by asking Dr. Nelson, can you tell us? We hear of Down syndrome. What is Down syndrome? Let's put it into context, and then we can move on from there.
Okay, so Down syndrome is, I'd have to label it as a chromosomal disorder in the sense that all of us have 23 pairs of chromosomes. And when the egg meets the sperm, we have one from one and one from the other. So we make the pairs, and that allows us to then be a human. But on this occasion, we have two chromosomes, that is the number 21 chromosome coming from one person, and then from the other, making for three instead of 221 chromosomes in the fetus. And that baby, or the outcome is a child with Down syndrome. Now, because you have an extra chromosome, it comes with some specific features. And initially, of course, you can make that diagnosis during pregnancy, which has so many connotations that I don't want to go through that in this program. However, if you did not get this diagnosis during the pregnancy, at birth, these babies have specific features. The first feature is they have an upslanted eye, almost like an Asian slant. They will have flat nose bridges. They will be floppy. And by floppy, I mean normally we have a fair amount of tone, so that if we're lying, our arms will come flexed to our chest and our legs will come flexed to our chest as babies. However, with a Down baby, everything kind of lies flat. So they look unusual at birth. They will have a space between their large and their small and their second toes. They might have a very small fifth finger. They will have one crease instead of three. They will have one less crease in their palms. So you look at all of these features, and together as a physician, you can suspect Down syndrome and then confirm it by doing a blood test and looking for that number 21 chromosome. Now, in medicine, we call it trisomy 21, which means it is 321 chromosomes. And that equals the layman's word for it as Down syndrome.
Okay, wonderful.
Issues. So let me just go through some of them. They will have skin problems, very dry skin. They can have heart lesions. So a lot of babies will need heart surgery immediately after birth. They can have thyroid issues. So some babies, they have high thyroid levels or low thyroid levels. So they can have multiple conditions in addition to all of the features that I just spoke of.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Dr. Nixon, you want to come in with anything here?
Yes. So I guess most people want to know, Dr. Nelson, how do I prevent myself from having a Down syndrome baby? And how do I know before my baby is born? Well, or how do I know before my baby is born that I have a baby with Down syndrome?
Okay, so I don't know that you could prevent yourself from having a baby with Down syndrome. I think this happens by luck of the draw, serendipity. It really is about an egg and a sperm. And which one of us in life has the ability to choose our eggs and our sperms? My goodness, if I were to go back there, I would choose to be Einstein and choose all of the ingredients.
Attributes. Yeah.
So we have no control over this. If you're an older mom, there is a higher risk for Down syndrome. However, in recent times, we've been noting that younger women are having Down syndrome babies. So we seem to not necessarily know where and when it will happen. Now, one of the things that we do now is ultrasonography. And because we're doing so many ultrasounds during pregnancy, one of the things that the ultrasonographer can do is look at the nape of the neck and see increased folding of the nape of the neck. And that is one of the first telltale signs of a possibility of Down syndrome. The ultimate way to diagnose is by chorioamniocentesis, where they go in and they pull some sampling from the
Amniotic fluid.
And they actually look at the cells, and there they can make and confirm that the baby is indeed Down. And it brings then this dilemma to families about the issue of abortion or not, and this is where it becomes a little bit murky. But again, as a physician, if you see the signs there, I don't know that it would be easy to say, okay, I am going to forego sharing that with the family. All of it, again, has to be open-minded, and then decisions are made by the family according to their beliefs and according to their rights.
Okay. One question.
According to the laws of the country, right?
Of course, to the law.
One question, Dr. Nelson. What are the chances of, let's say, a mother having 3 Down syndrome children?
I think it's very rare, but there is the possibility of it, of course, repeating itself, especially older moms. Yes.
Right. So
but I've seen Down syndrome twins more than once.
Yeah. No. There. It's yeah.
So that's a possibility.
So if a mother let's say has a Down syndrome child, and later on the other one comes out a normal child, can that child later on in life have a Down syndrome baby as well? Is it something then that can be passed on
genetically?
Not.
Okay.
Definitely. As I said in my first statement, this is luck of the draw.
Okay.
If you're saying that it is seen more in older women, as I said, no, we're seeing it in younger women. It can happen at any time. It can happen at any time. But it is still considered, a little bit on the rare side. It is not an everyday occurrence. So you're not going, if you're looking at numbers, it's probably going to fall near the maybe 1%, 2%. It's not going to be the 90%.
Okay.
What do I tell a mother at birth, though? Do we here in Grenada, for example, I know in other places we probably do we do chromosomal testing for diagnosis?
We do not. And, we certainly explain to the mom that there is the possibility of doing that abroad. But I think in the region, probably, I don't even think Jamaica is doing it.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so probably there. But most persons will get it confirmed in the US.
Clinically as well.
Well, no, it's gonna be diagnosed clinically, and then you can speak to them about getting it confirmed, elsewhere.
Right.
So what do I expect my Down syndrome children to have? What are the positive things first, right? Because people are scared. Because in the past, I know we hid these kids. We had those kids, those children. They weren't our children. They were those kids that only their grandmothers might take them to church. They weren't socialized as before. There wasn't special education offered to them. Well, there's no education offered to them. They stayed home. They were called all kind of names, right? Because I think we need to appreciate what these children bring to our community. Because there are a lot of positive things that we know about Down syndrome. What is it? And because I also think, because in the past, we've always spoken about of those children not needing to be out there because they're not useful. But we've seen difference. How can we not feel so scared? If I had to have a Down syndrome baby, God forbid, at this stage of my life, nobody wants any baby. But convince me that there are positives, and what are the positives can I look forward to in my baby who's born on March 21st with Down syndrome in Grenada today?
Okay, so let me start off by saying, if you look at the spectrum of learning, which is, I feel, the core of the question, in any population, we're speaking of children with chromosomal lesions, you're speaking of children with other disease processes that are lifelong, and you're speaking of the regular population. If you look at a spectrum, you're going to find 5 to 10% are learning disabled. You're going to find 60% are brilliant. And then you're going to find another 40% that's kind of in between. You're all going to find that pattern in any situation. And so I always advise parents to be mindful of that. So even if you have a Down child, and I say to you that this child will have cognitive issues, will have speech delay, will have issues with ambulation, and will that does not mean that this child is going to 100% be that. And therefore, if you think of the spectrum in the normal child, you can believe that your child is capable of doing more than the book says. So I want to point that out. And none of us can define that this child is not going to learn, and this child is not going to know numbers, and this child is not going to go into any kind of sport and do any kind of musical instrument. Once you have a kid and you expose this kid to anything, when I say anything, whether it be music, academics, sport, you ask that they do the best that they can do, and you will be surprised at the outcomes. So I want to start on that platform. I do not believe that one should dictate that Down children will be X. All children can be every and anything that is allowed and that their families expose them to and that the country supports.
Right. One question, Dr. Nelson, before we bring in Tonia here. What are some of the complications that can affect children with Down syndrome?
I think the main complication would be the heart issue. And most babies may have like a hole in the heart, or they can have malformed hearts. I mean, different heart ailments. Some requiring surgery, some requiring lifelong medication. But because in Grenada we have that CHORES project, most of our kids are retailed and tracked. So that has not been an issue for us. But as they go through life, you always have to be worried about their thyroid glands, because your thyroid, remember, is that hormone that kind of keeps us buzzing. And it can affect learning if you have a low thyroid hormone level. It can affect function, it can affect learning, it can affect many parts in many areas in the child's life. So it's very important that you check your thyroid function in the child over the lifetime of the child to ensure that you're not missing any thyroid disease. Those are the two main things. But of course, the little things like the neck, they have kind of a loose atlantoaxial joint, which is that joint right at the top of the head that joins the head to the spinal cord. So you have to be very careful about these kids like diving or doing any kind of these acrobatic sports, because they can literally pop that out and it can really be detrimental to them. In fact, it can cause, injury to the spine. So it's very important that parents know this. And, if of course there's any hint and they need to, see an orthopedic someone, just be thoughtful that this is one of the ailments that I don't think comes to the top often. And, you have kids, twirling and doing stuff in grassy spaces, and young kids have to be very careful about that.
Right. What?
Tissues, very dry skin. So they have little things that other normal children would have.
Visual problems, for example, is one of the things that kind of predominates.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So let's bring in Tonia. I know one of the, I think earlier Dr. Nelson mentioned the issue of speech. Tonia, you're a speech therapist. Let's talk about the issue of speech as it relates to Down syndrome children and how, it can be addressed and dealt with.
Right. So children with Down syndrome tend to have delayed speech development. And that's for some. Again, Down syndrome is a spectrum. So again, some may be more challenged than others. And it's really about early intervention, a lot of recall and practice with the children. It's general for all speech issues as well that we would deal with. We tend to see a lot of repetitives. And there are many ways that we can intervene. Via speech therapy would be one mechanism, but also ensuring that the families and schools work together to ensure that we are helping to develop the child's speech. So we're not accepting gestures mainly, or having them just point without trying to attempt to use the words. So you don't want to make them, as quote unquote, some people say, oh, they're dumb and mute. And that's not the reality. It's just that, and I tell parents this with regular children who are not meeting their speech milestones as they can. If I'm going to request, let's say, juice, and all I know I have to do is point the juice and I'm going to get the juice. And every time I do that, I point the juice and I get the juice. Then it tells me I don't necessarily have to speak. So why should I speak? I don't have to ask for it, because if I point, I'm going to get it. But we have to now reinforce. So the child points to the juice, you want juice? Emphasizing and expanding on language is really what we have to do to get the children to be able to use speech.
Okay, Dr. Nixon?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
No. I have other questions because, how accepting. I want to ask Tonia, how accepting is patient our parents, because whoever is the caretaker for the child, whoever is the guardian, the legal person, guardian of the child, how accepting are they to therapy and whatever skills you're going to try and implant in this child, whatever you can offer. I know some kids go to the school for special ed, but how accepting are most of the families in Grenada? And what would you say to the person who is not yet accepting?
So, it's a challenge because there is the stages of grief, and I say with any diagnosis, you have to go through that process. And I often tell parents that come, a lot of them say, oh, well, my other child, talk until he was 5. So why should I come here now if the doctor refer at 3? But the earlier we intervene, it's the better. The more we can put systems in place to correct the challenges or reduce the challenges, it is better. And I often tell parents, you have to first attempt. You have to try. If you don't try, then you'll never know what's going to happen. You never know what can work, what doesn't work. Not everything that we do, there's a clear demarcation. I do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to happen at this time. It takes time. Children learn differently, and we have to try the various mechanisms to get them to learn. And that's, I think, the most hardest part, not just for parents, but all of society to understand.
But Sonia, I want to also add that whole limb that Sonia just mentioned about grief, is so very important to acknowledge, because when, as a parent, you have a child with any disability,
Disability.
comes with, you call it grief, but it's like a weight that comes onto you. Because not only are you having to deal with the fact that this child is going to demand more work from you, and I mean, that's a reality that you face. You have to be able to um, have that conversation with your community. And notice I said your community because every chick and chack on the road, oh, how your child looks so, what happened? You know what I mean? So you have to then have the guts to be able to face and say and explain and talk. That in itself is another burden. So I feel it's important, and this is one of the roles that these programs, the Grenada Down Syndrome Association, becomes vocal as it has been in just enhancing knowledge, in showing that indeed, it is hard for these parents to come out with these children and walk the street. So, give them a positive note, give them love, allow them to walk that road and say, oh my word, I went today and I didn't feel sad about anything. That was the best. And I feel that we in Grenada have come a long way. I mean, I am so proud of us. I am so very proud of us. We've come a long way because when you see how they've taken up this mantle of the Grenada Down Syndrome Association and they've been running with it, it's volume of what our community can do with any crisis to come by.
Tonia, you're saying something?
No, I'm agreeing with Dr. Nelson here. I'm in full agreement. Full agreement. Grenada has come a long way. There's lots more we can do, but of course, it's step by step and increments by increments. And if we all work together as society to see not just Down syndrome as functional members of society, but all persons with disabilities, we can move mountains. We can move mountains.
So this is the word that has been on my mind all day today is tolerance. And it's for some reason, everything I did today at work, I came home, I was here, and the only word that keep recurring in my mind is tolerance. Because tolerance breaks down a lot of barriers. It makes people come out of their shells. So I'm going to ask the next question, and I'm going to ask Dr. Nelson. What is that thing, apart from the tolerance, what is it that's allowing our persons with Down syndrome to have extended lifetimes? Because a lot of the people who are Down syndrome died early. What has happened in our healthcare system, in our community? And we have to look at what we call the socio-ecological, from the person out to the big community, to the people who make policy and stuff, ensuring that people's lives, whatever the disease condition is, right, that people's lives can be better. What is it? Point out to us, because I want Grenada to hear this, that allows our persons with Down syndrome to live longer. I had never heard, until that girl died, where I was living abroad, I'd never heard of somebody in 60 years having Down syndrome. So tell me, what have we done? What are we doing right? And how we can upgrade it to make sure that, equity is reached.
I feel that I have to get close to I feel that there is a network of clinics throughout the length and breadth of Grenada that continues to thrive. And caring for individuals with different chromosomal, chronic, whatever you want to label it as, disorders. And the fact that those protocols are followed, for example, that you're going to do x-rays of the spine, that you're going to do your thyroid function testing, that you are going to be looking for diabetes, that you're going to be checking their weight and height, and that you're going to be educating the family about what to do and what not to do. So if you have protocols in place for the management of specific diseases, and you are spending your time and ensuring that those protocols are followed, then the outcomes will be better than you can ever imagine. And I think that is the primary reason why a lot of our kids with chronic disease have bumped themselves right up to adulthood, and they're thriving in adulthood. So not only Down syndrome, I mean, we have some kids, status shows many, many things, rheumatic fever, who had multiple heart surgeries, and these adults, and they're doing, and they're serving, and they're, prominent parts of our society. So yes, I believe we are doing something better than we did maybe 3 decades ago. So kudos. I mean, sometimes we don't say it out loud, but it works.
Okay, so let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, I have some more questions I want to ask, and a little later on, we'll open our telephone lines to invite calls from our listeners. Stay with us. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
AIDS, cancer.
If there was ever a time to keep and stay healthy, it's now. We at Hills and Valley are here to help you take deliberate steps to maintain your health. We stayed true to maintaining the most comprehensive rates while stocking the widest range of medicines and health devices, including personal protective equipment. There are so many benefits shopping with us. You get great savings through discounts for senior citizens and reward cards for loyal customers. Ask about owning yours today. Visit us at Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George, Jubilee Street opposite the Grenville Bus Terminal, and at Hillsborough, Carriacou. Our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street also stocks the widest range of pharmaceuticals. We are with you on the hills and in the valleys. We are Hills and Valley Pharmacy.
WeatherGuard Pro. For every project, there's only one Pro.
Omega XL is a highly concentrated omega supplement in a small and easy to swallow capsule. It comes from green lipped mussels, which are sustainably grown in New Zealand, away from pollution and civilization. These mussels contain EPA, DHA, and over 30 free fatty acids that together fight pain and inflammation. Omega XL contains 22 times more free fatty acids in an easily absorbed, bioavailable form, which means one small soft gel of Omega XL has greater inflammation fighting and pain relieving power than 10 capsules of standard fish oil. It has gone through over 30 years of clinical studies and scientific research that have shown it works.
As you age, your body has a hard time producing anti-inflammatory substances. Omega XL gets right to the root cause of your pain and helps restore this natural anti-inflammatory state.
This is your moment. The moment to live life at its fullest. Don't let your pain get in the way. Get back to an active life. Omega XL really works.
Don't wait to find relief from inflammation. Get Omega XL at your local pharmacy or health food store today. You have nothing to lose but your pain.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue. Available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Island Style Tires annual Easter clearance sale is here, and boy, do we have some exciting deals for you. Massive savings on tires to be had with discounts from 10 to 35% off on all tires store-wide. Buy all we have in the low stock model and watch your discounts skyrocket with a huge 50% off. Plus, get chip edge tires for as low as $1. Yes, we're clearing out our old stock to bring in the new. And that's not all. The Easter Bunny has added extra savings on tubs, bathroom vanities, tile tools, and so much more. It won't get any better than this. Jump on these excellent deals and visit our Island Style showroom on Monroe Road in Grandans or call 439-TILE. That's 439-8453. Sale ends Holy Saturday. When you think tile, think Island Style.
Drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, cancer.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Doctor Called, and this evening, as part of Down Syndrome Awareness Day, we are discussing the subject. Dr. Beverly Nelson is with us, also Miss Tonia Hyacinth, who's a speech therapist, and of course Dr. Nixon is here. Dr. Nelson, let's talk about caring for children with Down syndrome. Of course, we've established that there are some little differences with them, and of course that will require some levels of special care. Let's talk a bit about that, and maybe some advice to parents who have children or a child with Down syndrome.
Okay, so one of the initially when they're infants and toddlers, you may have to have support from physio, speech, occupational therapy, because these babies are very fluffy, and therefore they're not going to be doing all of the milestones, the motor skills like crawling and running and walking and reaching in the same time frame as a normal child. So the first 2 to 3 years will, demand that the parent attend to, taking their child to have these sessions so that.
For me?
Hello? Yes, taking the child to have these sessions so that you can have them achieve those milestones in a timely fashion. So, I look at the first 2 years, speaking now as a mom and not a physician, as very, very difficult because of the amount of time that you must invest in ensuring that, this child is able to find her or himself able to stand and run and do and eat properly. And so those initial 2 to 3 years are intense and very difficult for families. So support is essential. And I think support from extended family is essential. I mean, in my case, I happen to have Tonia, who's an extended family member, and it's, it made my life a little bit easier. However, the average person will, especially let's say they live in Shantimel. I have a couple of clients who live in Shantimel, and they have to know to bus and come to town to go to physio, to go to speech, to go to everything in order to achieve the goals. So those first 2 to 3 years can be difficult. But then thereafter, I would say that if you can put that child in a daycare situation or in a school situation, so then the child can, how can I say, start to appreciate other children's activities. And you would be surprised at how they will mimic. Even though they're going to be slower, they're going to mimic. So having them be exposed to other children is also crucial. to allow them to then develop their own non-spoken.
Okay.
And those are the critical moments.
Right. Tonia, you want to come in here and talk a bit about the care aspect of it?
Definitely. A lot of oral activities as well is a component that you would do to help with, one, the feeding issues that they may have, as well as the speech development issues. Trying to get them to drink through straws. A lot of blowing of bubbles, bubble activities, making silly bubbles with water. A lot of imitation of songs. So the dog goes quack, goes quack, quack. You try to get them to imitate songs, the the M and the N and the B, 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 b. So you go through those phases to get them to imitate. But I think what is also crucial as therapists is ensuring that there's a home program. And when I say a home program, what are the simple things in the everyday situations? During mealtime, during bath time, we're going grocery shopping, we're walking down the road. How can I facilitate language? How can I stimulate language? And I often tell parents, yes, there are cards for speech therapy and all of that, but we don't necessarily need to do that. There are many things within our own environment that we can use to teach. And I often tell parents, you walk into the door. Door, what's the color of the door? Green door, black door, push door, open door, closed door. So you're still facilitating the language. The door has a shape, rectangle. So you're still facilitating language, and they're learning, they're hearing the language skills to eventually be able to develop. And it's really all of those key little things that we can do. Feeding time, 1 spoon, 2 spoon, ready, set, go. Giving them the empathy to try is what we really have to do, and have those teachable moments present.
Okay, wonderful. Dr. Nixon? You're muted, so you need to unmute.
I'm sorry. I kind of want to segue into the whole issue of support and the importance of the Down Syndrome Association here. We know that you may have a child with Down syndrome, but it takes a whole community, like I said before, and policymakers. It has to go up the whole of the ecological chain. So, Tonia, as a director of the Down Syndrome Association, tell me, what is it that we can do to strengthen families and to support them and to educate our population so that this small and yet very important group, every citizen is important, but this small, very well-defined group of people are respected, are accepted, and are integrated without prejudice, and that tolerance is expected, is practiced among them. Tell me, what is it that you do, where the Down Syndrome Association comes in, and how you guys get this thing going and staying and getting better?
You know, it's really, I must say that it's a group of parents, educators, family members, and well-wishers who really want to see persons, not just Down syndrome, but persons with disability be given equal opportunity. And our mission as the Grenada Down Syndrome Association is to enhance the lives of individuals with Down syndrome, helping them to reach their full potential by providing public education, so getting the public to understand what this is, what do we do, how do we help them, family support, as well as education and social opportunities. A lot of the times, and it happened in the past, where persons were kept at home, they're not in the community, but we are given social opportunities. So we have fun days, we have movie nights, we have Christmas party, that's a big thing for us. And of course, we have the Walk Your Socks Off, where they all come together and have fun. And it's us giving them those opportunities, as well as educating persons, bringing the expertise together. If we don't have it on island, we can find somebody to have the discussions. We use our resources, who we know, we pool, and we get the expertise to come and speak on what you need to know. And that's really what we do. So our goal is really to have a registry of these persons so we know who you are, where you are, how can we support, how can we link you to a family. Even the family discussions. We have a new child, and you know, the mother came to one of our educational sessions, and after the educational session, she was in awe because she got to see that she's not the only one in the struggle. There were other parents who came through the struggle and can advise her, these were my little tricks to get things done. And that's really what we're looking to create and continue to create.
So I'm hearing that Down Syndrome Association really empowers families and helps to eradicate stigma and all the negatives and to promote this fabulous population as people who have their own strengths. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. That's correct.
So let's say I have a Down syndrome baby, a child in my house who's probably 10 or 12. And I have never really integrated her. She don't go to school. She don't do anything. How would I get in touch with you guys?
So we are on Facebook. So you can visit us on the Grenada Down Syndrome Association.
I don't even have electricity in my house.
You listen, if you know where Dr. Nelson's office is, you can find her there. If you know how to reach me, you can find me there. You have nurses in the community. You know somebody who has a phone, tell them you need to find one of the speech therapists or one of the health doctors or one of the nurses, and they would link to us. I think we are very much reachable, and persons know how to find us individually. So I can tell you that the directors, and I can name some of our members, of course, Dr. Nelson is a director, myself as a director. We have Lawson Hagman, Friday, who is our accountant, John L. Benjamin, who is our secretary, Samantha Williams, who is one of our co-directors, and Dr. Mata Lanza, who is another co-director. So we are very easy to be reached. And I think there are persons who know how to find us. So once you speak to anybody, you just say you're trying to, and I think Dr. Nelson's name is a very popular name. So if you say you're trying to reach Dr. Nelson, you should surely get to her.
Somebody will tell you.
Somebody will tell you, that's right.
Yes, indeed.
Let me just add to that. You know, I think, especially this year, and, you know, I want to comment on the fact that we had two very isolating couple of years because of COVID. And to see the Grenadian response to our talks today was absolutely fantastic. I mean, is my grin all the way to my ear? It's all the way to my ear because everywhere you turned, every school, the ministries, so many companies, you know, persons that did not have the crazy socks made their own socks. It's just amazing what this has done. So I think I want to mention the goal. One of the biggest goals we have is a community center. We'd like to see this happen, and we are saving our dollars to that goal, but we need a piece of land. So I am begging not only the government, but any citizen out there who happens to have a piece of land on a bus route that they want to give to us. We don't want anything too large. We'd like to put a community center, have a little yard for the kids to play. In that center, we want to be able to do our educational sessions, have play areas, have areas for education, you know, and then of course, maybe have a library so that persons can come and access, some of the tools that they need for learning. So all of that we'd like to happen. And because we've been saving over the years, we're in a place that maybe we can even start our building and then seek funding for the rest of it. So I am pleading and begging anybody out there, we are looking for a little piece of land on a bus route so that we can put our center up so that it can serve the nation's children with disability, inclusive of Down syndrome.
Okay.
So I want for the public to know that I'm protesting here, that I don't get any socks, and that I'm vexed. And if I get it tomorrow, I'm wearing it. It doesn't really matter. Whenever I get the socks, I'm wearing it. Because I've given away the socks I've had before. But it was very emotional for me today that my teenage great nephew, who goes to a very popular high school in town, came to my office, he and his friend in the evening. And it's funny because both of them had their pants stuck up in their silly socks. Right? So it means that our people are becoming aware. And awareness and tolerance removes stigma. And that's what we need, to remove the stigma. Having Down syndrome is no fault of yours. Having Down syndrome is just some two crazy chromosomes decide, hey, I like you, let's make a nice person, right? But that we all have to support families, because I think the Down Syndrome Association has its place, but we have a place. We have a right to give a child a seat on the bus because he has Down syndrome. We have a right to when the child walks up on a stage or comes to church or to mass and come up and stand in front of the altar or start to sing and dance, to really encourage that thing, that spirit, and to feel that warmth in our heart, because that's what, like I said a while ago, that kind of toxic love, they intoxicate you with the love that they give. And I think everybody has a place in life. So we have to try and get rid of the stigma of probably the most perfect people that God creates on this earth. I'll tell you, my cousin died recently, and I heard nothing bad. She commandeered everybody's life, but she was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. And what came out was love. And I don't think we understand the blessing that small population brings to our community. It is very important. So as we teach our children to understand and to accept and to tolerate, to integrate, to encourage, to bring in and stuff, I think we're not going to look at Down syndrome as people with disability. All of us have disability. Right now, my ankle hurt me, I can't even walk. But the truth is, that is where we need to get to. And I think the work that the Down Syndrome Association is doing is yeoman, because it's important that we talk about people who are just people who have a little different needs from the rest of us. And that's exactly what it is. I want to ask, though, without calling names, I've known of people with Down syndrome who've been very high achievers, because a lot of people think, and you mentioned it, Bev, earlier, or Tonia, that, people think that they can't do anything, they'll just be there. Let's talk about some of the achievements of our people, or the population, even globally, who have had Down syndrome, and why there's so much positive to look for. What do you know of, Tonia?
We can say even in our own society, we have, at least within our society, there are 3 members who are working members. They're out in the field of work. And it also speaks to our Grenadian businesses given opportunities. And I know of 3 of our Down syndrome population, but I also know of other persons with disabilities who are in the field of work. And we really have to give our business community the kudos for accepting, because it takes guts. Because sometimes you have to go behind them. You have to ensure that they're doing the work to the standards that you want. So it means there's a level that you yourself have to put out. But it also speaks to society accepting. Because if I am the owner of the business and I say that's my employer and you have to respect my employer, you have to respect my employee, sorry. But that's one step. But it also says that if I see that this business community is also employing them, then maybe I should try. try and have one and see what happens. Right? And that's a stepping stone. It's also an opportunity for us to teach them as to what the world of work means. And I can tell you, when Sabrina started to work, Sabrina calls every morning, but now it's, I'm at work. So it means don't disturb because I'm at work. Right? So the boundaries are set and they understand all of that. And that's how we grow them into society and give them that opportunity. And it also means, and I can speak from when I was in the Ministry of Education, the special ed schools trying to meet with employees to have opportunities. So Grenada School for Special Ed, I know especially, and Victoria School for Special Ed have gone to the business communities to have their children have internships. So it's not just, it has to be that collaboration, and we have to accept those collaborations.
Okay.
And it is happening. We're seeing more and more businesses opening their doors, to young people with disabilities, and it's wonderful. And I feel it will bring a whole nuance to the business world as this continues to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from listening to both Dr. Nelson and Tonia, there's a lot to learn also from people with that type of disability. I do know people, and I've seen their reaction. And Dr. Nixon mentioned the love that comes from them, and it is a fact. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know today we're talking about the work being done. I know there was a march in Grenville today with the School for Special Education in terms of raising awareness. And all these are wonderful things, to raise the awareness. But I just want to go back a bit, Dr. Nelson. Are there different types of Down syndrome?
Well, that's getting into to deep trouble there. There are types of Down syndrome that are called mosaics. So that will have maybe the 3 chromosomes, but you don't have all the features of the classic Down person. So that person may have Down syndrome, but when you look, you may not see all the features of Down syndrome. They may not have all of the cognitive delays, but so they're called mosaics. So they're,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, all right. And going back to the care, as it relates to ensuring that these children, in terms of the complications, that they're okay, and all of these little things that may pop up are in check. How often would you recommend, let's say, that a parent with a child of Down syndrome have their child do, let's say, medical checks and things like that?
I will say at least 1 to twice annually. And we're speaking now of the older child. The younger child who, let's say, has a heart condition or has any one of these organ abnormalities will need more visits to the MD, because they will need their heart checks, they might need their thyroid screens, and they might need to do other work in order to ensure, and especially if they're on medication, they will need their refills. They might have to get books to make sure that everything is in order. So it really depends on how many organs are involved. And for example, with my daughter, she did not have a heart condition, so that took that off the table. But she had a thyroid condition, so her thyroid gland was irradiated, and she now has to live for the rest of her life on thyroid hormone that she takes every day. She must take her medication. She has to have her bloods done for that. So again, it depends on which of the problems that can be associated with Down are in your child. And some kids may have all of them. So if you have all of them, it will pile on more doctor visits.
Okay.
So you can't put it into one category and say everybody should be seeing the doctor once a year. you have to see the doctor based on what level you are in terms of the number of conditions that can be on board.
Right. I know one of the I was doing a little reading, and one of the things that was cited as a one of the minor complications was that of obesity.
Yes.
In terms of diet and so, any special attention than the ordinary person?
Definitely special attention, but it's very difficult to pull in kids with Down syndrome in terms of the eating. You have to really be how can I say, carve out and ensure that in your home you don't have all of the nicety. By that I mean the fatty, sweet foods, because
Salty.
you cannot oversee a 21-year-old or a 15-year-old or even a 10-year-old 24/7. So I would say it starts with ensuring that all the foods that you put in the fridge are on the healthier side, and you ensure that you're keeping tabs on what's happening in school, and if you can find a way for them to exercise. And now the kids can be involved in swimming, they can be involved in sporting events, just being mindful of their atlantoaxial joint, that they can't be doing any kind of rolling, or
Somersaults.
or diving from high points. Those are no-nos for Down children. But outside of that, they can be involved in any sport, and that will support exercise, and of course just be mindful of what you put in the fridge. But yes, diet is important. Obesity is a
So
part of
I want to ask a question that I think is very important, because here we have a population that's living longer, living to adulthood. I want to speak to the issue of relationships and intimate partner relationships and reproductivity. I think we need to address this here, because they might have a trisomy 21, one chromosome that's not working, but the rest of the body works. So can you just address the whole issue of intimacy and sexuality and stuff, because they still need to be guided, because for cognitive abilities, for the issue of what you call it, constricted inhibition. Okay, so you need to, they don't know boundaries as well as others, and the fact that they may be prone probably to abuse, physical and sexual. Can we address this here? Because this is a very vulnerable population of children who run into your arms and who can be abused. So I want us as a country to recognize, first of all, that this happens, and a responsibility to protect these children twice as much.
I feel it's important because we've had instances in the past where young persons were abused. And I would imagine if you peruse the police records, you may find that there's some Down persons that have been registered in there as being abused by others. So it's happened in Grenada. But to know is that in the world now, you're seeing Down persons actually getting married and having relationships, and a lot of it is plastered over social media. But the caveat here is that we believe that there should be some level of contraception involved in all of this, because 50% of these relationships, if allowed to happen, will produce Down babies. And that's a staggering number. So there has to be some thought about that. It is a discussion that I know will have its pros and cons in terms of beliefs and religion. Most persons would say that these persons should have contraceptives as they move through their relationship. But 50% of those unions, or 50% of the children conceived in those unions will have
Down syndrome.
Okay, so what we can do, our telephone line is now open, folks. The number is 435-2041. If you have any questions you would like to ask our guest, you can do so now. The number again, 435-2041. So you can give us a call, and I'm sure Dr. Nelson and Ms. Hyacinth, and of course Dr. Nixon, will be more than happy to address any questions or concerns you may have. All right? The number again, 435-2041. While we await the our callers, I just want to talk a little bit more about the work of the association, because I really don't know much about it. So maybe Dr. Nelson or Tonia, you can tell us a little bit more about the association and what is actually happening with the association.
Right. So yearly, we do what is called the Rock Your Socks, which is the event on Down Syndrome Day. We also have what is called Swim Your Socks Off. So actually, this Friday at 5 p.m., we gather in front of Umbrella's restaurant, and we swim up Grandance Beach with your socks on and back down. So you can either swim back down or walk back down in recognition of World Down Syndrome Day. And it's just a matter of persons coming together and again, recognizing World Down Syndrome Day. We do have our lifeguards who would be present and swim instructors for safety as well that would be present. We also usually do yearly a walk around Montrouge. Now, because we know that our Down syndrome population can't do long walks or strenuous activities, we do a small walk. So right around Montrouge, and then we gather in Camahan Park and we have fun. There's food and fun that happens on that day. And that will be on Saturday. And we gather at Camahan Park at 3:30. Yearly, we also do a Christmas event. So it's not only just for our Downs population, but persons with disabilities. And they are accompanied by a chaperone, which we cater the cost of. And we invite persons from the outside that can come in and contribute and purchase the dinners that we have. It's really, and we do have Santa, so that's something that the kids really enjoy, having Santa present. And, you know, they dance and they sing and they have their music that goes. We, in collaboration over the years before COVID, we worked with the Jason Roberts Foundation to do a yearly fun day, where it's an opportunity for parents to see the skills that their children have. So there's games, there's football, there's face painting, there's arts and crafts. We haven't had it due to COVID, and we have to have further discussions on how do we bring that back on board. There's also the movie nights that we do on various occasions, so we'll have to make announcements on when that is. And of course, this year we started our educational series, and that we hope to continue moving forward in a yearly basis to educate the populace on various subjects within Down syndrome. This year we had the opportunity to speak to parents because of their request, have an expert speak on stigma and the do's and don'ts of Down syndrome, the basics in terms of how do we help them educationally and all of that. There was a discussion earlier in terms of the same topic, sex. How do we deal with these intuitions that can happen? So all of these are things. So we really look at what the parents, our families are requesting and get the expertise there.
Excellent, excellent indeed. Dr. Nelson, anything you want to add?
I think she covered everything.
So basically, sorry, I wasn't hearing Bev. So basically, you guys are an advocacy group as well as a support group. Yeah. Is that what it is?
An advocacy and support group. And I have to say that we're pretty small, And as we expand our capacity, as we expand, and offer more options to the community, we will need new members. So it's always good for persons out there who are vested or interested in supporting an organization like this to get in contact with us, and we can share and let you know how you can become involved. Because, in a moment like this, where we have multiple things on the ground, we have a swim your socks, walk your socks, a socks campaign, there is so much to do. And the few of us that are running around doing all of this would love to have others be a part and say, okay, I'll do this and I'll do that. And remember, it's all about not only down persons with disabilities, and your community.
Okay, wonderful. Dr. Nixon?
So do I have to have family with Down syndrome to be a member of the Down Syndrome Association? We better say that to them, because people are going to think it's only people without Down syndrome.
You don't. We actually have floor members who do not have a person or a family member with a disability, and they are there to support the operations of the Grenada Down Syndrome Association. So you don't necessarily have to have a family member who has a disability or someone with Down syndrome to be part of this organization.
Let me just point out one more thing that has been absolutely amazing for us. There was one medical student who, very early in her medical school career, joined us and then went on to graduate and go into developmental pediatrics, and is now in one of these residency programs, continuing to work for us at the highest level. I mean, this woman fundraises, she recruits, she supports, she does this remotely. She will fly into Grenada at the drop of a hat to support us. So it's great. I'm saying this just to show that you don't even have to be here. You can be elsewhere and supporting.
So you're speaking to people in the diaspora at this point, right? And I know they're listening. And it's true, because, listen, like I said in the beginning, the reason why breast cancer containment has occurred is because we had people who went out there and said, I have breast cancer, we need support, and other women joined. The reason why diabetes and hypertension are being, people talk about them openly. People used to talk, I have, when they had diabetes under the table. But know that people are joining and understanding and trying to get information about those situations. They're accepted as, you and join the long line of people who have diabetes. Here's what you can do. Are you going to be doing ongoing education of the public on Down syndrome till they know it like the back of their hands?
Well, our education series will, cover this area, and certainly programs like yours. And we're so thankful for you and your for inviting them on. We'll do some of that work. So we'll continue as best we can. Yes.
Okay, I think we have a caller on the line.
People.
Dr. Nixon, we have a caller on the line. Let's see if we can get the caller in. Yes. Doctor and call, good evening. Okay, we lost our caller. Yes, we lost the caller. We were a little late. So the number is 435-2041, and you can definitely give us a call now, and we'll be happy to hear from you. 435-2041. So, Doc, you can continue what you were saying.
For me?
Yeah, when we yeah. Well, let's try the telephone again and see if we can get the call in. Doctor and call, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, good evening, caller.
Yeah, good evening. I would like to tell you the significance of the sock.
Oh.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, caller. Yeah.
The socks. Oh.
Significance of the socks.
Yeah.
Right. So the socks is actually shaped like a chromosome.
The drawings.
Yes.
If you look at a chromosome, it has this kind of a round top that curves and comes down. So when I imagine the World Health
United Nations
Nations made these decisions along with the World Down Syndrome Association, they were trying to be symbolic. So the sock looks like a chromosome. And then, of course, it has all these crazy colors, which means that it's almost like all of the differences that we have is in. Can you add something more, Tonia?
And all of the similarities that we have are also engendered in those socks because everybody wears a socks. So even if I wear my orange and my green today, and Tonia wears her blue and her pink, we all similar. We all wearing socks, and that's what you have to remember, that we have more similarities than differences, and that's where tolerance comes in. We tend to think, oh, you're different, and I'm not different to you. You and I have the same. We're all human beings. I might have one chromosome different from yours. But we're not different. We're people, you know. And that's a lesson we have to teach our people.
And that declaration actually came from the UN in 2012. The mismatched socks, rocks your socks, came about. Really, really advocating and showing the need for us to be tolerant, back to tolerance. And actually this year's theme, if we look at it, it says, with not for us.
Yes.
With us, not for us. All right. So we're joining hands together to do things together. And it's really, that theme spoke to people with disabilities having the right to be treated fairly as
equity. All of us have to be there at the same time. And tolerance is the gateway, right? Tolerance, respect. And it's for other things, but in the case of people, especially people with disability, who always get there because we think they can do this. I was talking to some children, to some people recently about obesity and childhood obesity. And I remember I had this little choir when I lived in another jurisdiction, and this girl, very fat girl, she was obviously, there's no two ways, she defined obesity. And I took the kids, because they worked so hard, took them on this poolside party, but none of them could swim. And I said, hey, 3 feet, don't move behind. We sat there, the 3 feet, me and another mother, one on either side, right? 3 feet, and we're like hawks, keep counting the dozen children. And the girl who was fat swam like a whale. Just swam. And all, from that, the level of inclusion, she seemed different, but she was one of them. And there was something that she was better at than them, much better. Nobody else could swim but her. And she just swam so she could go into 9 feet. Oh, and she swam and she swam and she threw it in the water. We spend so much time looking for people's differences that we fail to embrace their similarities to us and how their differences sometimes are better.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
That thing that is different.
I want to cut you. I wanna say that if you look at the spectrum of learning, I was trying to find a simple word of learning in the Down syndrome population, you will find that there are persons who, in spite of us saying that they're cognitive issues, persons who in the area of brilliance, meaning that they have very high IQs, and certain members of the populations that would, of course, go all the way down to the other end of the spectrum. So we always have to keep that in mind. And I think that whole theme the UN has is they want to be a part of the conversation. They want to also be part of the conversation, so we cannot leave them out. So when we are making all these decisions because we believe that they have cognitive delays and they can't make these decisions by themselves, what we're doing, we are leaving them out of the conversation. So now the emphasis is on inclusion. Let everybody be a part of the conversation, no matter who they are or what we think they are. That's
And it's also the small things. The shirt that they wear today. What clothes do they want to put on today? What shoes do they want to wear? Sometimes we have to allow them, the colors don't match, because that's what they want to wear today. For us, it may not match, but for them, that's what they enjoy. So how do we give them that opportunity and that window of opportunity to make their own decisions? And that's really what we need to do. So again, it goes back to with us, not for us.
For us.
Wonderful, wonderful indeed.
it's potent.
Yeah.
It's beautiful matter.
Right. Well, I tell you what, I wish we can go on and, continue the discussion, but of course, that's all the time we have for this evening. But of course, these are issues that, we don't necessarily have to wait for, World Down Syndrome Day to speak about it. These are things that, it's part of us. As Doc said, we cannot decide that we are going to have a Down syndrome child or we're not going to. We have no control. It can just, as Dr. Nixon said, it's the luck of the draw. It can happen, but of course, we can learn from people with disabilities or people who are different. And so we need to keep those conversations going. It is important. We might be surprised.
Did you ever think that you might be the disabled one?
All of that, definitely. So I
remember a friend of mine saying she had gone to a concert, but it was a spoken word concert it was a comedy show in the US, and she was the only hearing person. It was a hearing show for people with hearing challenges, right? And we're laughing, and she's sitting like a fool because she can't understand a thing. And she was what the world considers the normal person. But she was in an environment where she was not able. Everybody could read sign language, everybody could read lips, and she sat like a fool and could not grin. Right? We have to remember that there are people who have who don't have the same abilities. And when you get into an environment and you look at children with Down syndrome, you have to understand that you might be the disabled person because you might not understand the intimacy they share, the friendship they share, how they communicate to each other, how they support each other. So sometimes we don't need to be so arrogant. We just need to be tolerant and understanding and step out of ourselves and understand that nobody is perfect.
That's why most things are relative. It depends on where you are. Definitely. So I want to thank you all very much, for coming on the program and, sharing with us I learned quite a bit. There are a few things I did not know about Down syndrome, and I'm quite happy. I'm now a little more aware of it. And of course, I would like us to continue these discussions from time to time so that we can keep the awareness. There are a lot of things that we need to keep out there, because a lot of people don't know, and because they don't know, they cannot appreciate the wonderful sides of many things. So let's continue the conversation and keep it out there. So Tonia, Dr. Nelson, I'll give you all a minute just to make any closing remarks before we wrap for this evening. Let's start with Tonia.
I would say, Godfrey, thank you for having us. But as we rocked our socks today, I want to say thank you to all who participated in recognizing our persons with Down syndrome. But there's 2 more events. Swim your socks on Friday at 5 p.m. Walk your socks on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Come out and support.
All right. And the walk your socks will be where?
At Camahan Park. So we gather at Camahan, we walk just around Montrouge, and fun and games after.
Okay, wonderful.
Food and games and fun.
Dr. Nelson?
I want to emphasize that we're all human beings, whether we're or not, whether we're disabled or not, and we'll have to love no matter who we are.
Thank you very much, Annette. Yes. Dr. Nixon?
So, my longtime friend Bev and I went to all our primary school together. A lot of people may not know that. She doesn't even remember that. And Tonia, who is an exemplary young woman, I want to thank you guys, not only for being here tonight, yes, for being here tonight, but also for the work you do, the passion that you show, and for coming and share with Grenada that we all can do something within the Down syndrome community. It's important that we build strong communities so we can't leave out anybody, because everybody have a purpose for being here. We have to remember that one thing. I have Down syndrome because I'm supposed to do that. I have whatever, scoliosis, whatever the things are. I'm here, that's me. But I want to see us learn tolerance. I want to see the Down Syndrome Association be out there, not only at Rock Your Socks and on other, but always be there. I want to invite Grenadians who are listening tonight to still wear your socks for the rest of the week. I'm going to wear my socks when if I get one from these Down syndrome people. But silly socks means it's just wear pretty color socks. I see some socks today. I wonder where people get them, but it showed that people were aware that this is going on. So I'm going to invite people still, with the permission of Down Syndrome Association, still wear your silly socks, wear your colored socks, usually 2 different socks, because those silly socks are different. Just to show not only support and solidarity, but that you are part of a bigger world that's made of all kind of people. I hope that there'll be policy on a national level that includes this group with very special needs, and that while we are a small group, that things like support for families, education of parents, providing facilities for learning and for growing, not just for academic learning, for skills, developing skills, so that they can reach that point of equity. They can be their best person. If you're going to live to 60 years old, they have to have something to do from 0 to 60. So I'm looking forward to policy. We'll all advocate, and we have to come together, Grenada, to advocate for all Grenadians so that we can all be the best we can be, and Grenada can be the best it can be. And I want to thank the people who stayed on tonight. I'm sure people stayed on because people don't ask questions when they're learning new things. And tonight we learned a lot. So thank you, Dr. Bev and Miss Tonia, speech therapist extraordinaire. Thank you guys very much for being here and for the work you do with that small population.
Thank you very much,
And
Dr.
Godfrey,
Nixon.
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I will accept that from Tonia and Dr. Nelson, not from me.
You see, that's how special I am. So I don't have any insecurity.
You always. One quick question though, Dr. Nelson, Tonia, do we have any idea as to the number of
the population?
Yeah, in Grenada.
So we're still really trying to update that list, that registry that we have. We have about 50 on the registry, but we know that there's many.
Is there a number people can call if they have doubts tonight? So if my grandchild had Down syndrome and the mother has a home and she's trying to, who can they speak to? Who can they do? Is there a number that you have or an email address?
Tonia, which email?
I know we have an email address, but I
can't remember.
I can't remember it.
You can call Dr. Nelson's office.
Yes, indeed. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all again. Thank you very much for being here. And, of course, we look forward to having you all again not too long from now. Until then, do have a good night. Thank you, folks, for staying with us. Don't forget to join us tomorrow evening at 8:30 for our Climate Reality. Tomorrow, we look at the impacts of climate change on health. Do join us for that. All right? Until then, all the best and take good care.
Drug abuse, cancer,
measles, diabetes, AIDS, ingredients.